Lloyd was an orphan who got adopted by the strongest S-rank wizard and became an adventurer. But his party fired him because he was a useless support mage. However, no one except his teacher knows that he is actually the chosen hero who will defeat the Demon King. When Lloyd was just a boy, his hometown got destroyed because of the Demon King's attack. However, he survived, and an S-rank adventurer wizard named Merlin found him. She seemed to have lost someone precious in the battle against the Demon King too, and to cope up with her loss, she decided to adopt Lloyd and take him as her disciple. Merlin takes him to her house, and the very first thing she does is create a fireball out of thin air. She tells the awestruck Lloyd that if he can't create fire using magic by evening, he can't have dinner. Lloyd keeps trying hard to create flames, and as soon as he succeeds, he excitedly runs to show it to his teacher. Merlin sarcastically tells him that he did good before blowing out his tiny fire and then roasting him medium rare, saying that he still has a long way to go. Soon after that, she shows him how to summon water from the ground, and Lloyd gets it right on the first try itself. However, instead of appreciating him, Merlin acts like a sarcastic again and drowns him in water to show him this is how it is supposed to be done. As days pass by, Lloyd learns new types of magic, but Merlin is never satisfied. Even when he creates an ice sculpture of her, she uses her magic to teach him a lesson. She controls the sculpture and grabs Lloyd before increasing the size of the statue, telling him that he lacks skills. She then breaks down the sculpture and Lloyd falls to the ground. Being the naive boy he is, he believes Merlin fully and promises to work hard to overcome his lack of skill. A few days later, Merlin gets a terrible hangover and Lloyd uses his magic to heal her, and the first thing she does after getting up is hugging and thanking him. The very next moment though, she drags him outside to practice magic. Time passes, and one night, Merlin is looking at some ancient texts with a disturbed and painful expression on her face. Suddenly, Lloyd comes there to call her for dinner, and as she gets up, she accidentally drops the book on the ground. Lloyd helps her pick it up, but the moment he touches the book, all the information inside it is uploaded into his brain and he passes out. Merlin freaks out on seeing this because Lloyd just learned an ancient magic spell just by touching the book, which means he has the qualities of being the chosen one. That brings back some traumatic memories for Merlin, and she doesn't want Lloyd to repeat the same mistakes she did. So that night, as Lloyd sleeps peacefully, Merlin goes to his room and places a magic spell on his forehead through a kiss, sealing the knowledge of the ancient spell inside his brain because she doesn't want him to trust his power too much. To make sure that Lloyd doesn't go down the dangerous path, she even recommends him to become a white mage whose main role is to provide support to other adventurers. She teaches him recovery magic that can help fruits grow, and then shows the difference in their levels by casually reviving a dying tree. After that, Merlin continues teaching him about magic and other stuff, but whenever something related to ancient magic comes up, she tells him that he doesn't need to learn that because ancient magic went extinct hundreds of years ago. More time passes with Lloyd training under Merlin, and one day, she blindfolds him and takes him deep inside the forest full of dangerous monsters. She gives him just one knife and tells him to make it back home within a week using his magic. She doesn't even give him a chance to say anything and runs away, and Lloyd is left confused and scared. Almost immediately, a wolf monster arrives there, and Lloyd somehow avoids its attacks by climbing on a tree nearby. He realizes that the spells he can use as a white mage can't defeat the monsters, and the only thing he can do is walk home while avoiding the dangers. First of all, he uses his magic senses to find his home, and then starts walking in its direction. He uses magic to ripen fruits to eat, and at night, he tries coming up with new magic spells that can help him stay safe. He continues his dangerous journey alone, experimenting with new spells that can help him find food and run faster. The next day, he almost gets gobbled up by a spider monster, but thanks to his spell that makes him run faster, he is able to get away safely. Lloyd doesn't stop using the spell till he reaches home, and as a result, he collapses from exhaustion right in front of the door. Time passes quickly and Lloyd grows up to be a teenager, who gets curious about the outside world when he finds a magazine about the city nearby. Merlin's attitude around him has changed as well, and instead of dragging him to practice magic, she pulls him out of his daily chores to create new types of magic spells. She comes up with new ideas at the most random moments and makes him pull all-nighters consecutively to help her make those ideas a reality. Lloyd can't handle all that stress, and one night, he decides to run away from home to explore the world. The next morning, Merlin finds his room empty with just a magazine about the city on the desk, and she realizes that her little boy has finally grown enough to enter his rebellious phase. Meanwhile, Lloyd reaches the city and gets swept up in its momentum. He spends the small amount of money he has on food and wonders how can he earn more when a recruitment notice for an adventuring party hits his face. He doesn't even notice that someone was watching him and decides to try his hand at becoming an adventurer. The first mission he takes after joining the party is fighting a Cyclops, and he is thrilled because he has never seen anyone fight such strong monsters before. The Cyclops is pushing back Alan, the leader and main DPS of the party, and he asks their healer to cast a healing spell on them. Lloyd decides to help out as well by instantly casting a support spell over all his party members, but none of them even realize it. The archer quickly shoots an arrow into the monster's eye, blinding it, and as it tries to take the archer out, the tanker named Riina rushes to block the attack. She is shocked because she feels almost no weight behind the punch, and in the meantime, the mage of the party binds the Cyclops, giving Alan the chance to finish it with one slash. Because of this, Alan becomes a star overnight and people begin hailing him as a hero. On the other hand, Lloyd is completely neglected and gets only loose change as his payment because he is D-rank white mage. He accepts that amount because he thinks he is only worth that. And when Alan says they should toast to their success, he quickly excuses himself because he doesn't drink. The girls are pissed because he refused Alan's offer, but he doesn't actually mind because he doesn't consider Lloyd a member of their party. He says that all white mages are useless, but they still need one to comply with the guild rules, and it doesn't make a difference if it is Lloyd or anyone else. Riina, however, thinks that there is something no one is paying attention to, and she is quite curious about Lloyd. On the other hand, the guy keeping tabs on Lloyd turns out to be Merlin's informant, and he gives her constant updates about her student. Merlin says that she is not worried about Lloyd as long as he doesn't get too arrogant, and the spy will ask her if she regrets what happened in the past. Merlin bites her lips as she recalls the day she fought against the Demon Lord with her party led by hero Sybil. The Demon Lord could not win against them, so he decided to self-destruct instead, destroying an entire city with him. Hero Sybil used the ancient magic to revive all the people who died because of the Demon Lord's attack, but he had to sacrifice his life to do that. Losing him was a great blow to Merlin, and while she adopted Lloyd just as a coping mechanism, she never thought he would be a chosen one just like Sybil. She swears that she will never repeat her mistakes, and she will do whatever is necessary to keep Lloyd safe. Back in the city, Alan quickly becomes a big shot after slaying powerful monsters thanks to Lloyd's support. Of course, no one notices this except Riina, who only has a faint idea about it. One night, Alan receives a request from the soldiers to defeat some golems that are killing their troops near a patrol point. Alan quickly takes up the offer, thinking that it will be quite easy. He takes his party to the patrol point, and Lloyd uses his magic search to find that they need to enter the waterfall to fight the golems. Once inside, Alan fights the golems, but a summoner keeps creating new ones each time. Lloyd realizes that the summoner is using a magic stone to create new golems, and he quickly buffs the archer, telling her to shoot the summoner. She obeys him, and her arrow somehow curves around a pillar to hit the summoner in the chest. Lloyd then orders the wizard to teleport the magic staff to him, and he immediately seals it as well. This doesn't sit well with Alan, who feels that only he can give orders to his party. He then decides to focus on the golem, and Lloyd warns him to step back, because the golem is out of control after losing its master. Alan doesn't listen to him and charges ahead, and Lloyd has to use a special magic to catch up to him and save his ass from getting squashed by the stone giant. Alan gets angry at him, and just then the golem powers down, giving him the chance to destroy it. Once the mission is over, Alan immediately fires Lloyd, saying that he is useless and always hides at the back. Lloyd, who has been gaslighted all this time into believing that he has skill issues, accepts the decision without fighting back. He tries searching for another party to join, but there are no vacancies and he feels disappointed. Luckily, a girl is looking for a free white mage urgently, but the receptionist tells her that it will be hard to find someone who can meet her conditions. With no other options left, the receptionist points at Lloyd, and as soon as the pink-haired bitch confirms that he is an unemployed white mage, she drags him along with her. Turns out that the pink-haired girl Yui is a member of an S-rank adventure party, and they recently went out to hunt some bandits. Their teamwork and superior strength allowed them to easily defeat the bandits, and they cornered the boss too, telling him to surrender. However, the boss decided to pull out his secret move and summoned a giant stone golem to fight against them. Yui's party realized that it was resistant to magic and weak physical attacks wouldn't do much against it either. So she decided to face it herself, being the strongest damage dealer of her party. She dashed towards the golem and striked it with her full power, but she could only leave a scratch on the golem's body. She had to back away and dodge the golem's attack, and then she asked their party's white mage to buff her up. The white mage seemed to be lost in her thoughts, and it took her a second to process what Yui had just said. Luckily, she was able to cast a spell to increase her strength in time, allowing Yui to defeat the golem with her next attack. After they arrested all the bandits, Yui went to talk with the white mage Clum, who apologized for spacing out earlier because it could have cost Yui her life. Yui told her not to think too much about it, because she knew that Clum was dealing with some serious personal issues at the moment. She asked her about how everything was going at her home, and then Clum suddenly handed her resignation to Yui, because she needed to take a break to look after her sick sister. That leads us to the present moment, where Yui eagerly grabs Lloyd's hand and drags him to her base. Her party members take a moment to process that she found a white mage because they were sure that she would fail. Yui then introduces Lloyd to everyone, but she doesn't even know his name yet. After that, she introduces her party to him, which includes Daggaz, the shield user, Cross, the archer, and Silica, the mage. Lastly, she introduces herself as the swordsman and the party leader, welcoming Lloyd to their party. Lloyd asks her when did he consent to joining the party, and Yui is taken aback because she didn't even realize that she never asked him the main question. Daggaz and Silica understand that she eagerly dragged this stranger to the base without explaining everything, and they apologize to him for that. After that, they turn to Yui, telling her that even if she found a white mage, he can't replace Clum, and they should give up on their current quest. Yui gets upset on hearing this and says that their client asked them for help, and they can't turn them down like this. Lloyd asks them why don't they let another party take the quest, and Daggaz tells him that it is not possible because they are dealing with a rank quest. Only parties ranking A and above can take on such quests, but currently, all A rank parties are out of town, and only they can accept this mission because they are an S rank party. Lloyd is shocked to hear that he is standing in front of S rank adventurers, and he really wants to help them, but once again, his low self-esteem makes him believe that he is too weak to be of any use. However, Yui suddenly speaks up on his behalf, telling her party members that they should at least give Lloyd a chance to prove his abilities before they rule him out. She takes him to the woods to show his skills, and Lloyd feels nervous, thinking that he is going to disappoint everyone here. Yui keeps telling him to do something, and Daggaz asks her to at least tell the newbie what kind of spell he should cast because he looks confused. Yui asks Lloyd to cast enchantment magic on all of them, but Cross and Silica think that it will not be possible because only very skilled white mages can do that. However, Lloyd is shocked because after hyping up the job as the most difficult thing in the world, Yui just asked him to cast a very basic level spell. He asks her if she is sure that this is the test he needs to pass to join her party, and she affirms. The other party members tell Lloyd that he doesn't need to act strong if he can't do it, because they know how difficult it is. However, Lloyd tells them that he will do it. He quickly summons his staff out of the dimensional storage, and that is already enough to shock everyone. He then casts 5 different types of enchantment spells on them at once, and they don't even realize it because he is too fast. Yui asks him where did he pull that staff out of, and he tells her about the storage spell that he can use to keep things. He then asks if she is satisfied with the results of the enchantment spell, and Yui is confused because usually it takes more time and an incantation to do that. Everyone starts feeling lighter and stronger as a result of the spells, and to try out the effects, Yui swings her sword at a big tree nearby. She is able to cut through the tree cleanly even with a gentle swing, and her entire party is flabbergasted at this. Lloyd then tells them that he cast 5 types of enchantment spells on them, and they almost can't believe what they hear. Lloyd explains that he thought casting just one spell on all of them was too simple to be the real test, so he tried to go beyond that and show what he can really do. Yui and others are too stunned to even reply, and Lloyd thinks that they are just disappointed by him. He returns his staff to the storage, saying that he understands that he is not fit to be the white mage of their party. He apologizes for wasting their time and begins walking away, but then Yui stops him. She finally bothers to ask Lloyd about his past work experience, and he shocks everyone by revealing that he was fired from the hero's party for being too weak. Yui and others wonder what kind of standards the hero has for calling Lloyd too weak, because they have never seen anyone who can cast 5 enchantment spells at once. When Lloyd still insists that he is weak, Cross begins to worry more about his standards. Lloyd changes the topic by asking them why don't they call their party's white mage back, and Yui explains that Clum's sister is really sick, and she was taking care of her while working as an adventurer the entire time. Naturally, it took its toll on her, and she could no longer do both the things, so she decided to take a break from being an adventurer. Daggis says that they could have completed most quests even without her here, but rank quests are quite difficult, and they definitely need a white mage to do them. Everyone suddenly gets worried about Clum because even though she left their party, she is still their friend, and Lloyd feels jealous on hearing this. He quickly changes the topic and asks if anyone knows what disease Clum's sister is suffering from. Yui recalls that the girl's body is turning to Magistone gradually, and Lloyd remembers that he learned about Magistones from his master. When Merlin was teaching him how Magistone can turn other living creatures into Magistone as well, Lloyd had wondered if it is possible to restore them to normal, and now he decides to find it out. He asks Yui to lead him to Clum's house, and she takes him there. A very thin and tired Clum opens the door and gets surprised to see her friend there, and once they go inside, Lloyd gets straight to work. He asks Clum to tell him in detail about her sister's condition, and she says that originally, she and her sister Sylvie used to go on adventures together. However, one day, she got injured during a mission, and ever since then, she has been sick. Lloyd asks her for the symptoms, and Clum decides to show him rather than explaining with words. Just as she opens the door to Sylvie's room, an intense malicious mana leaks out, and then Clum removes her sister's blanket, showing that her hands and legs have already turned to Magistone. She says that Sylvie's mana has gone berserk and her condition keeps worsening day by day. Clum fears that her sister doesn't have long to live, and then Lloyd asks her to let him help her. He says that he has a theory that can turn Sylvie back to normal if he is right, but Clum refuses to believe him because even the specialist healers she called to look at her sister said it was impossible to cure her condition. However, Lloyd explains that Sylvie might have been injured by a high-purity Magistone, which started turning her into a Magistone too. He asks Clum if Sylvie was injured in a place with high mana density, and she affirms, saying that they were on a mission to extract a Magistone out of a cave. Lloyd asks her to show him the entry wound, and when Clum reveals Sylvie's waist that has been turned into Magistone too, Lloyd is certain that this is where the problem started. Clum asks him how does he know all that, and he replies that he learned it from his master. Yui then asks Clum to trust Lloyd with this one, and she decides to give him one chance. Lloyd immediately casts a spell to absorb all the corrupted mana from Sylvie's body, but that is quite hard for him to handle as well. Anyway, he manages to pull through the first step, telling Clum that he needed to reduce Sylvie's mana to near zero, because otherwise there would be no point in healing her. He says that he will continue absorbing her mana while healing her, and casts another spell to start the healing. Clum realizes that it is not the usual healing spell, and Lloyd tells her that this is a more powerful version that is highly inefficient, but it also allows him to burn the mana he is absorbing from Sylvie. Clum is speechless on hearing this, and Yui asks her if Lloyd is doing something impressive. She replies that he is casting two self-made spells at the same time while enduring a tremendous amount of mana, both of which would be impossible for even the greatest white mages. Soon, Lloyd's method shows its results, turning back Sylvie's petrified body to normal. As a result, Sylvie regains consciousness, and Clum starts crying tears of joy on seeing this. Later, she tells Yui and Lloyd that once her sister recovers, they both will go on adventures together again, and she wants Lloyd to support her party in her place. He tells her that he is not qualified enough for that, but that statement goes above Clum's head and she asks him to do what his heart says. After that, Yui and others throw a party to celebrate Sylvie's recovery, and they thank Lloyd, who still thinks that he is not worthy of it. However, he sees how well everyone treats him here even though they just met, and he nervously asks them to let him join their party even though he lacks strength. Everyone is pleasantly surprised by his change of mind, and they gladly welcome him to their party. After that, they throw a welcome party for Lloyd and tell him to eat as much as he wants because they are going to cover the bill tonight. Lloyd starts eating like he has never seen food before, and his new party members are quite amused to see that. They ask him if he was so hungry, and Lloyd tells them that the food in this town is really amazing. That is another shock to everyone because the food here is quite average, but Lloyd tells them that compared to what he has been eating since childhood, the food here has amazing flavor. Yui is curious about his childhood now, and Lloyd tells her that he used to live with his teacher, who cooked whatever grew in her garden. She collected wild mushrooms sometimes, and other times she would simply roast meat from wild beasts and then give it to him without any seasoning. Lloyd says that because of that, he learned to cook, but even then, he could never make food as good as this. Yui doesn't even care about food at this point, and she is more curious about the person who taught Lloyd magic. She asks him to tell her more about his teacher, and the other party members also join the bandwagon. Silica asks if his teacher is also a white mage, and Lloyd says that she is more of a combat-oriented mage because he often saw explosions when she was working alone. Silica is amazed that someone who is not a white mage trained Lloyd so well, and he agrees that Merlin is beyond amazing. Silica says that she would love to learn a thing or two from her, but Lloyd stops her right there, telling her that she would regret this statement for the rest of her life if she learns the truth. Anyway, after discussing some more about Merlin, the party decides to hold a strategy meeting for their mission, and Yui asks Daggaz to explain the mission details to Lloyd because she sucks at giving presentations. Daggaz tells Lloyd that their mission is to defeat monsters that are destroying local farms, and Silica tells him that multiple species of monsters have come together to form a pack. That is the first time Lloyd is hearing such a thing, and Daggaz says that it is new information for them too, but they need to take it seriously. Suddenly, Cross remarks that since they are against a huge number of enemies, he and Yui will struggle because physical attack dealers aren't good at handling mobs. Yui agrees, saying that Silica will have to carry them this time because she can use wide area spells. But even Silica is nervous because using wide area spells consumes too much mana. Yui then asks Lloyd if he can use attack magic, and he replies that he can use basic level spells, but the result is not that impressive. Daggaz then moves on to the strategy formation part, and says that he and Yui will gather the monsters in one area so that Silica can attack them at once. Cross will protect Silica and Lloyd, who will focus on healing and support. After that, everyone heads to the inn to get some rest, but Lloyd starts walking in another direction. Daggaz stops him, asking where is he going, and Lloyd nervously replies that he is too broke to afford a room in the inn. Daggaz immediately gives him a pouch that has more money than the sum of all the money Lloyd has seen in his entire life. He gets flustered and tells Daggaz that he can't accept it, but he replies that this is not charity because he will subtract this amount from his salary. Lloyd can't refuse now, and he thanks Daggaz, promising that he will work his best to repay the amount. The next morning, everyone gathers in front of the inn, and Yui is the last one to arrive. She asks everyone where their bags are, and they excitedly tell her that Lloyd put them all in his magic storage so they don't have to worry about carrying them. Yui immediately takes up the offer as well, and Lloyd quickly puts her stuff in the magic storage. Yui and Silica start glazing his amazing skills, but Lloyd tells them that he can teach it to all of them. Everyone is shocked to hear this because they have never seen anyone other than Lloyd use this magic, but he assures them that it is fairly easy to learn, even though increasing the storage capacity needs some training. With that, they depart on their mission, and on the way, Lloyd learns the importance of having fun during long quests. They reach their first campsite way earlier than scheduled because they don't have to carry the luggage, and there, Lloyd takes out the stuff from magic storage so that they can set up their tents. Yui decides to go splash around in the river now that they have set up tents, but Daggaz scolds her, saying that they still have to collect firewood and food. Lloyd volunteers to collect firewood, and Yui thanks him for reducing the workload. She then drags Silica away with her so that they can take a bath, and in the meantime, Lloyd goes to the forest and collects some dried sticks. He then spots the fruit he used to eat in his childhood and decides to take a handful for his party members, when suddenly, he hears Yui screaming. He rushes towards the direction of the scream and finds a giant serpent monster attacking Yui and Silica, who are completely defenseless against it. Lloyd immediately rushes in to help them, attacking the monster to grab its attention. Using this chance, Yui and Silica rush to the shore, and Lloyd waits for them to cover their bodies with a towel before tossing their weapons to them. He then instantly casts 2 enchantment spells on them, and Yui immediately lunges at the monster, cutting it in 2 with a single strike. However, even the severed head of the monster puts up a fight, and Silica tells Yui and Lloyd to take cover before she shoots a fireball at it, taking it down in 1 hit. She is shocked because she usually doesn't have that kind of firepower, but it doesn't come to her mind that Lloyd buffed her up. Meanwhile, Yui thanks him for saving their asses and asks him to put her sword back in the storage again. when suddenly, her towel drops and Lloyd gets to see the plot she'd been hiding. Both of them freak out, and Lloyd gets slapped even though it was not his fault. Anyway, once they return to the campsite, Lloyd decides to teach everyone how to use storage magic. He tells them to open up a space using their palms at first, but they don't understand how to do it. However, on Silica's advice, they give it a try, but they just look like a bunch of morons squishing an invisible balloon. Lloyd feels that he is a bad teacher because he can't teach it to them. But then suddenly, Silica chants storage, and she is able to open up a magic space. Everyone suddenly realizes that they can't cast spells without incantation like Lloyd, but if they can use chants, they can figure it out eventually. After a bit of practice, Silica is able to store her staff in the magic space, but others struggle to do it. Later at night, while the rest of the party is sleeping, Lloyd and Yui are on watch. Yui suddenly sits in front of him, thanking him for joining the party, and he replies that he was also jobless so he should thank her. He then remembers how determined she was to complete the quest because their clients needed help, and asks her if there is any special reason why she is so dead set on doing this quest. Yui tells him that when she was little, her village was attacked by monsters, and she was the only survivor. So when she heard about the quest, she couldn't stop herself from accepting it because she wanted to save people from the situation she had faced. Suddenly, Lloyd cuts her off, telling her to be silent because there are monsters nearby. Yui gets alert and summons her sword, while Lloyd tells her to go and wake everyone up. Soon, the entire party is ready to face the spider monsters, but they realize that their numbers are too huge, and they should retreat for now. They start walking back slowly, but then unfortunately, Yui steps on a twig, and the sound attracts the attention of the monsters. Everyone runs as fast as they can, but the spiders catch up and surround them. They start squirting webs out of their butts, and the adventurers block the first round of attack. But then one spider ties Silica's staff and takes it away from her. The spiders then trap them in a cage of silk, and everyone panics. Lloyd says that they should stop the spiders right where they are before trying to defeat them. He quickly enchants his teammates and then tells Yui to attack first. She leaps up, cutting through the silk web, and then cross-returns Silica's staff to her. In the meantime, Yui rushes towards a spider, blocking its sticky spray and then quickly chopping off its legs. She then surfs on the silk squirt of the spider to quickly travel towards the second one, cutting off its legs as well. Next, Lloyd tells Silica and Cross to join the offense. Silica creates some fireballs and Cross shoots arrows through them, setting the spiders or fire with the burning arrows. The fight ends with that, and Lloyd realizes that he started yelling orders even though he is the newest member of the party. He apologizes for getting carried away, but Dagus tells him that it was a good thing because he has the qualities of a natural-born leader. Everyone else agrees with him, and they tell Lloyd to keep playing an active part in leading the party during battle. The next morning, everyone has learned the magic storage spell well enough to carry their own luggage, and as they resume their journey, Lloyd keeps thinking about why the spider monsters were here. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.